I want to tell you of a little story. Basically, most of my adult life, I had terrible eating patterns. I would finish boxes of ice cream, pints of ice cream, no problem. Boxes of cereal, cookies, cakes, spaghetti, pizza, Chinese food. I could eat these almost endlessly. And, it was bad. There was a point where I would eat ice cream bars and I would literally, feel embarrassed about how much I ate, and I would leave a couple of the wrappers in the box so it wouldn't look so bad. Or I'd eat a box of cereal and I'd leave just enough that the next person could have a little bowl of it, and really wouldn't complain that I finished the box. They'd have just enough to get their little fix, and really my appetite was just out of control. And one of the real formative moments to when I figured out something was wrong was when I had a patient I was seeing, and the patient had alcoholism. And the way we screen for alcoholism in the medical profession, it's with something called a CAGE questionnaire. It's a way of asking certain questions, 4 questions, to make the patient aware that maybe they're dependent, and also to screen them to see if they may be dependent on alcohol. And, my wife had, prior to, me kind of going on this weight loss journey, she'd always, politely try to encourage me and say, hey, what's going on? Why are you eating so much? And of course, when you're overweight and somebody says, why are you eating so much? Your first reaction is, stop bothering me. Stop, I'm fine. I'm hungry. Leave me alone. Right. I always wondered, I look back and I wondered, why didn't I just go, hell yeah, I want to eat less. I was a 350-pound doctor, and here the woman of my life, somebody who loves me, cares for me, is trying to encourage me. Why is it that my brain would perceive her as nagging when she said eat less, or when my mom said eat less, or when my brother said eat less, or when my dad said eat less? Why are you eating that much, Tro? And I think the problem was I didn't know why I was eating that much, and I didn't know how to handle it. In any case, I have this patient in my office. Patient is an alcoholic, has a problem with alcohol, but kind of in denial. So I'm starting the CAGE questionnaire, C-A-G-E, CAGE questionnaire. And I'm asking the patient, do you want to cut down on your alcohol? And as I'm screening the patient, I'm self-reflecting. And the patient says, yes, I do want to cut down. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I want to cut down. And, C stands for cutting, right? Do you want to cut down? So it's a CAGE questionnaire, and the C is cutting. And A, the A of CAGE is agitated. Do you get agitated when people tell you to cut down? And the patient was like, yeah, I do get it. My wife tells me to cut down all the time. And I'm thinking, oh my God, my wife tells me to cut down all the time. My mom tells me to cut down. My brother tells me to cut down. And it always bothers me. So then G is C-A-G. A is agitated, C is cut down, and G is guilty. Do you feel guilty after drinking? Well, shit, I feel really guilty after eating. So I'm 3 out of 3 so far. And then 4 is an eye-opener. 4, which is E, 4th question of the questionnaire, the C-A-G-E, cutting, agitated, guilty, E for eye-opener. Eye-opener is like if you drink, at 12 o'clock, you get, you have some drinks at lunch, or you get, kind of odd hours, or you start drinking. And, well, crap, I binge ate food all the time, late at night, when no one was looking, before I got home, all sorts of hours. So now I'm 4 out of 4. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong. And, I almost wanted to, I started to think to myself, I started to be in denial, I'm in denial, right? I'm saying, okay, well, maybe I can reverse some of this. Maybe I can not be agitated when my wife tells me to cut down, or my mom tells me to cut down, or somebody tells me maybe I shouldn't eat that much. So, and it got me thinking, there's not a lot of things that can abuse your own logic and abuse your emotions. There's no logical reason that a 350-pound doctor who knows better should be agitated when somebody's trying to support him, tell him to cut down, and maybe should think about what's going on, right? Why is it that when my wife said that it made me feel like she was nagging me, or she was bothering me, right? Why is it that I wasn't like, hell yeah, Rosette, I want to lose weight. Of course I got to put that pizza slice down. Of course, you're right. Right? So there's only one thing that can abuse your logic, and there's only one thing that can turn your emotions against you, right? And that's dependence. So the first thing I did, one of the first things I did, is I tried to start eating real food. Okay, as much as I could, but the foods that I couldn't replace, the foods I couldn't remove, I replaced. Okay, so I replaced the ice cream with, like a low carb protein shake, right? And then I replaced the chocolate bars with protein bars, and I replaced the chips with protein chips, and I replaced the cookies with Rosette's cookies. And I didn't eat them all the time. In the beginning, I ate them quite frequently, maybe 2 protein bars a day, protein shakes, whenever I got the urge to binge on something sweet and hyperpalatable. And that took me so far. I lost a lot of weight eating mainly real foods and trying to replace what I could not remove. But I soon noticed that I was relying on those foods just the same. I was binge eating those foods just the same. Sometimes I'd get really stressed out and eat 3 Quest bars. And trust me, 3 hours later, you're not happy about that. So I quickly realized, wait a second, there's not much difference here between me before and me now. Yeah, I did lose some weight. My body composition improved by increasing that protein a little bit and going lower carb. But those hyperpalatable foods, even if they're low carb, I was just abusing those too. So I said, okay, I'm going to stick to real food. So I did carnivore. But you quickly learn that you can abuse real food. I mean, even real food you can abuse. Take some berries and whip up some heavy cream and put them together. And that's a combination that you cannot resist. Nuts, cheese, dark chocolate, these are all real foods, right? And the combinations and the way I use them, I can abuse those too. So ultimately I went down to carnivore, but even with carnivore, I learned how to, I could eat more frequently, right? I could have eggs, beef, more frequently, as much as I want. I could abuse those foods too, right? So, but let me tell you, going from standard diet to, low carb fake foods, lost a ton of weight. Going from low carb fake foods to real foods to, keto foods, real foods, lost a ton of weight. Going to carnivore, lost a ton of weight. But that little demon was the same. So I said, okay, all right, if addiction to food is the problem, let's just start fasting. Okay, let's just start fasting and maybe we'll, there's no way to abuse a fast. So I started doing some, pretty much very close to carnivore, keto type dieting, and I started intermittent fasting. And then what happened? What do we use in fast to kind of help you keep going? Water, coffee, tea, seltzer. So my wife brings some flavored seltzer home, those ice drinks. They're like these tall, thin bottles. They're sweetened with, stevia and colored and, flavored. And they have no calories and no sugar, right? And here I am, first week I'm having 1 or 2. And then, the next week I'm having a couple more. And then I finally figured out there's a problem when my wife came home one day and I'm helping her empty out the back of the car. She went shopping and there's 8 cases of the stuff. And I asked her, what's going on? She's like, you're drinking it all. So I had lost control over something that was just sweet. No calories, no sugar, right? It was just sweet. So even in the fasting realm, I was able to find something to abuse. And so really made me appreciate the brain's ability to seek out reward. It doesn't matter what paradigm you give it. Whether you're standard diet, it's going to seek out reward. Whether you do low carb, fake food, it's going to seek out reward. Whether you do pure keto, it's going to seek out reward. Whether you do carnivore, it's going to eat more frequently. Whether you fast, it's going to do seltzer, flavored seltzer. I was losing control. I was drinking like 3 or 4 of those a day. I'm like, what is going on? Rosette, why are you buying 8 of them? 8 cases. Okay, so even now, I just want to show you, I struggle even now with this. I recently went on a cruise. It's our 10-year anniversary, me and my wife, and I talked at low carb Boca Raton, which was excellent. Doug Reynolds and Pam Devine asked me to come talk, and I gave a talk on low carb athletics, and then went on a 10th anniversary cruise. And what happened? Before I even go, I'm saying to myself, oh, it's a vacation. You deserve it. You can usually eat 1 meal a day and pretty close to carnivore. And I already started self-talking myself, to eat more frequently. Well, you're going to be out there with eating breakfast with your kids. It's going to be really hard to sit there in front of food. Any other animal that was in front of food would be eating, right? So don't fight it. Don't make it a big deal. It's vacation. You can have another meal. You paid for it. You deserve it. It's time to rejuvenate and restock up the stores. So the self-talk, I just want you guys to hear my own self-talk. So what happened? I ended up eating one more meal. I kept basically carnivore. I ate eggs and bacon, and I came, when my kids went and had some ice cream every now and then, I'd go and get hamburger patties with pickles and maybe a little bit of cheese, and then I'd have a dinner, lobster, steak. So I ate 2 to 3 times more frequently. And there came a point, maybe 3 or 4 days in, I wasn't even hungry. I was just eating to eat. I could have easily just, not eaten that much. So I fast forward, the cruise is over, okay? And what do you think? You think I was proud of how much I ate? Absolutely not. I look back, I'm like, why did I talk to myself like that? In fact, I was telling my wife, I said, I never want to be in a position where I'm financially incentivized to eat. It's not good for me. I was just reflecting, self-reflecting. So, and I quickly realized that demon, that impulse to eat, that reward to eat, it really hasn't changed in the 6 years I've been trying to really figure out this weight loss thing. It's been there. I've dealt with it much better and better and better. But it always comes and rears its head, right? So in the beginning, it was ice cream bars and cake and pizza, and then it was, low carb, like protein shakes and protein bars, and then it was dark chocolate and nuts and cheese, and then it was, extra carnivore meals, right? High fatty meals, and then it was, when I was fasting, it was the, seltzer drinks, the flavored drinks, and then here I am self-talking myself on this cruise to figure out a way to eat more, right? Legitimize, logic out a way to eat more. There's only one thing that can abuse your logic and emotions against your better judgment, and that's dependence, right? It's dependence on a substance. So why am I bringing this all up? I'm bringing this all up to tell you guys that it's not easy. This is something that's hard. We're hardwired to eat. Our brains, unless the wires are really crossed bad and you got anorexia or you're masochistic, you're going to want to eat, you're going to want to seek out pleasure. It doesn't matter what paradigm you give yourself, your brain's going to find a way to eat more. You want to go vegan? Great, I'll tell you how to gain weight. It's so simple. Get your Ezekiel bread, get your nut butter, get your banana, okay, and get your maple syrup, right? And put it on and drizzle it right on top. Roll it up, you'll eat till tomorrow, right? So you want to do paleo? Oh, that's so super simple, man. That's super simple. Nuts and honey, right? So there's a way to, there's a way to abuse any paradigm you give it. And just one part of this is have self-forgiveness, right? It's normal to want to seek out food. It's normal to want to seek out pleasure, right? And along the way, you'll figure out kind of why you have mistakes, why you make mistakes, and be self-forgiving on the way. You're going to make mistakes, and you want to make those mistakes so you can learn from them, so you can change, so you can improve, so you can do better. So really evaluate those mistakes. All right, so I told my wife, cruises, all you can eat, not good for me. Even though I kept low carb, very low carb, pretty much carnivore. It just wasn't good for me. It wasn't a good relationship with food. I don't like being financially incentivized to eat. It wasn't good. It's good for me to eat, 1 or 2 meals a day. That's it. And to keep the kind of meal size a little bit smaller. Anyway, I think really what I want to get across is this is hard. This beast is a lifelong beast. It's a journey. That demon that I've been struggling with, it's been there all 6 years. It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. Just learn to live with it, live above it, handle it. All right, guys. Till next time.